Hi there, and welcome back to my channel for what is this time around actually a normal video. I've been streaming so much lately that this feels very strange for me to actually sit down and record an old-fashioned video for all of you to watch, all of you who are interested. This is hopefully going to be my most brief video, not ever, but it should be up there. But knowing myself, I'm gonna keep rambling for way too long. But the thing is, the Eurovision hype is real, for sure. I mean, semifinal one, at the time of recording, I guess it's going to start in about 21 hours, I think. And I'm just kind of excited for it. So I felt like I want to talk even more about it because I haven't talked about it enough, of course. What I wanted to do is actually make a little bit of a top, my personal ranking, I guess, from the 15 songs that will participate tomorrow night at the time of recording. And I just like to share them with you. And I understand if we're gonna disagree massively, that's completely fine. I just want to share, just for a bit of fun, just for a bit of interaction going, and not much more than that. And I also feel like I've talked about these songs so much that you can find extended opinions from me about all of these songs on my channel, so I don't need to ramble way too much about it. Um, I will leave in the description a playlist that I've made from all of my reviews regarding the songs that are participating this year in Eurovision, so that you can find all of those if you want to hear more extended thoughts on any of these. So I'll leave that in the description so you can check it out if you want to. If you think I've treated really unfairly, then you can see my initial reaction to the song and really like make up your mind from there. You're completely fine to. It's completely fine if you disagree regardless, but just leaving that out there as well. However, something that I was actually contemplating when I wanted to put this list together was, should I actually take into consideration how they're gonna look tomorrow? And I was like, no way, because I've seen 30-second snippets, we've seen rehearsal clips. I can't take that into consideration making a personal ranking of participating entries. So what this is all gonna be is just based on studio cuts, just based on my initial thoughts and, well, expanded thoughts, I guess, as the season has progressed about the songs and only the songs. So there are a bunch of songs that I think are more likely to be towards the top of my list, depending on how they look on the stage, and some, work the other way. But this is all going to be about the studio cuts. I think that's kind of gotten everything out of the way, right? And it's been less than 3 minutes, so I tried to keep that brief. I didn't succeed, but I think everything is quite crystal clear, and I'm just gonna get right through my list. And I haven't written it down, but I think I have it in here. And in 15th place for me personally, I would absolutely in this semifinal, which I think is a very strong one, put Croatia. And I hope that you can kind of see on the screen here. I'll put up a list, and you can kind of keep track on it. Croatia I would put in last place simply because it's not a song that applies to my personal preference. Musically speaking, I'd say mostly. I do admire the entire effort they're going for. I think they have a message to it that shouldn't be swept under the carpet or anything, and they absolutely know what they're doing. But it would never be a song that I sit down to listen to. It's too chaotic. It doesn't really keep itself, it doesn't really have a thread that it ties itself to throughout the experience. A lot of random sound effects thrown in here and there, which I guess add to the purpose of the song, but it's not a really pleasant listening experience for me personally, and I don't think melodically it's too engaging either. It's a song that kind of just trundles along and doesn't really make me want to listen to it again afterwards. I feel like it's a listening experience that I get no enjoyment out of, and I think the performance really ties into what makes this a bit special, because as a song, from a songwriting perspective, I don't really think it's too much to write home about. So I'll put Croatia at the bottom of the list here. And then I gotta say everything else is pretty decent in this semifinal in my opinion. But I will put Ireland in 14th, and it's a bit strange because like months ago when the Irish national final was actually taking place, I thought, yeah, this is probably the best they had to offer, really, and I'm pretty fine with this song. I do enjoy it, but at the same time, there are other songs in the semifinal which I enjoy way more. So Ireland just has to take 14th spot. Pretty melody, nice kind of anthemic chorus. There's a nice instrumentation behind it as well. It seems quite competently put together, but at the same time, it doesn't really grab my attention in any way, and it doesn't really capture my interest and maintain it for 3 minutes. It just kind of goes along a bit on the more bland side, I guess you could say, and doesn't really spark that actual interest in me. I think the song is also quite one note and a bit too reliant on dragged out long notes, and doesn't really expand its songwriting either in terms of varying the chord intervals or melodic lines throughout the song. So it's a bit too much of the safe options all the time, kind of, and that's, I guess, where it falls a bit flat in comparison to the competition. In 13th, I think there is a different vibe going for it. I think it's more ambitious, and I do really think that it's quite a strong effort altogether. But I'll just have to put it here because, well, everything else in the semifinal is also a pretty strong effort. So I'll put the Netherlands in 13th, and it's mostly due to the fact that I never seem to return to this song, listening to it. I think that there are strengths within this one. I think it's a wonderful concept with the duet. I think they sound, at least in the studio cut, they sound pretty great together. They are both allowed times to really deliver the personal approach from each vocal performance. And then when they sing in unison, everything kind of really clicks. So I think it's nicely structured in terms of vocal arrangement. There's a nice continuation of the instrumentation in this song. I like how it gets more expansive towards the end. I think there's a nice flow to it. A bit on the slower side, but it still has that pleasant tone maintained throughout the entire song. The only issue is a me issue, because I never return to this song and really like sit down and listen to it. It's a song that I always enjoy when I listen to it, but it's never the one that I seek out. Like, yeah, I want to listen to this one. There are other ballads that are higher up on my list in that regard. So this one is just kind of put to the wayside, I guess. And I guess it's rather unfortunate, but it is what it is, really. And yeah, 13th for Netherlands. And in 12th is another song which I feel like the performance will absolutely elevate it, and I wouldn't really put it down here in probably won't put it down here after tomorrow. But at the moment, if we just based on the studio cut, I can't say that I'm overly impressed by what Israel brought to the table this year. But at the same time, I feel like the creative ideas that are scattered in here are quite nice. I think the professionalism of both the production and the arrangement is absolutely quite tangible. I love the kind of percussive arrangement throughout the song, how it actually switches up as the song progresses. And there's also quite a what do you call it, like quite a nice amount, like a decent amount of solid vocal melodies throughout the song that are actually quite memorable, and also a bit of fun, throughout. The energy is there and the professionalism is there, but I think it's obviously a song that will absolutely be massively elevated when you see it. Listening to it as a studio cut, it's not something that gives me too much excitement, I gotta say. And I think mainly what it comes down to is probably like the hook, I'd say, is part of it. It's very reliant on long notes being dragged out and kind of used as a build-up, which doesn't really build to anything. It's kind of anticlimactic in that way, and I don't really get excited listening to that aspect of the song. It feels like it's building towards something that never really hits, which I think is rather unfortunate. And it's also quite on the maybe not monotonous side, but the notes used are rather long than actually interesting in terms of intonation, I'd say. So I think those are some small setbacks that just hinders Israel from really climbing higher on my personal list as it is now. And in 11th, another, which I guess if you'd like to consider it like this, a non-qualifier based on studio cuts. This is just like Israel. It's been elevated massively by what we can see from the performance, I'd say. But I'd put Azerbaijan down here. I'm kind of, not secretly, but I'm kind of rooting for it massively to make it tomorrow, although I'm skeptical, but it just looks and sounds just perfect for what I wanted from this one. As a studio cut, though, it's a little bit like Netherlands. I don't really return to this song too often, even though it fits up my alley. It has a nice touch to it. I think the tone is wonderful in its warmth, and I think the vocals work wonders within this song. They sound great, and especially they sound great together. And the song is actually allowed to be very creative in terms of songwriting as it progresses. I think they do very clever things in terms of chord intervals and how the melody is placed on top of it. And their vocal tones match the whole concept as well. I know a lot of people are skeptical about the rap section. I think it adds a nice little flavor to it, but I can understand if it's not your thing. All in all, decent package. Unfortunately, don't see myself returning to it too much, but I'm very optimistic and very looking forward to seeing the whole package live tomorrow. But yeah, I'll put Azerbaijan 11th for now based on studio cuts. And in 10th, so I guess the qualifiers, I'm going to start off with Switzerland here in 10th because Switzerland has great aspects and not so great aspects. Very few not so great, I'd say. But the vocal is definitely probably the major standout, along with the piano arrangement, which I think is really wonderful. These small little piano segments that are scattered throughout the song have a wonderful dramatic tone to them with their brightness and also their kind of sorrow that they're packed with melodically. So I think those add a nice touch. It's cleverly structured, very massive. Lots of the drum. What's it called? The march beat kind of being incorporated there later on in the song. Very massive in terms of vocal. The strings and the horns really take over towards the end as well. It's grand. It's a bit over dramatic or melodramatic, if you'd like to say that, but I think it still kind of works. I get enjoyment out of listening to it. My nitpick with it is that the final chorus is incredibly short and it just kind of cuts very abruptly down into this very, what do you call, like intimate and soft ending again, which I don't really think works in its favor. It cuts off way too abruptly, I'd say, which I think is very unfortunate. But yeah, still, Switzerland I'd put in 10th, right behind Czechia, which I'd put in 9th. And Czechia is absolutely a song that I think hits me very well. It stands out. It has a massive vocal arrangement as well as a very creative songwriting throughout. I like how they incorporate different styles into it and match it all together to create a very unique listening experience. And I think the chorus is actually really memorable, along with a pretty poignant instrumental. Just a lot of great stuff in here. Another one, though, that I don't really return to too much for whatever reason. I don't really know why. I think it's very well put together, but I guess it hasn't really captured my interest enough, or maybe I've just kind of, like, it's gotten a little bit old. I'm not sure. Still very optimistic about it, and I feel like the whole vocal arrangement is probably the standard part of it. But there are a lot of other songs that also have these really standout segments in them, and I guess this one has just fallen a little bit behind in comparison to those. But still, really enjoy it. I'd say 9th for now. I might want to move it ahead of the song in front, but I get too much enjoyment, I guess, out of Malta, which I put in 8th, because Malta is just this fun package that knows exactly what it's doing. It's not a groundbreaking in terms of its songwriting or its production or any of those aspects. Not really vocally either, but it's tons of fun. It's charming and it's really, really catchy. So I just, I can't help but just get lost in it and actually really enjoy it to the fullest of my ability. Wonderful hook. I mean, the saxophone is a very like good choice of an instrument to rely on for your hook if you want it to be this kind of song. It's cleverly written, both lyrically and I'd say presentation-wise. The melody's there, the structure really works for it. It has a very like constant flow to it, the constant energy as well. There's never really a dull moment throughout the song, which I think is very effective as well. And it just keeps going. You could consider it quite repetitive towards the end, but I'm just too hooked by it to really get bored of it, I guess. So just a great package for Malta. I'd say 8, but you could swap this one and Czechia around. I wouldn't really mind, because I guess Czechia is a bit more impressive from the writing perspective, I'd say. But Malta, tons of fun. I'll put it in 8th, right behind Norway, which I have put in 7th. And Norway is one of these that's just, everything about it is just polished, pretty damn great. Vocally, sounds decent. Mainly like the melodic writing is absolutely there, especially with the rhythms incorporated. I think it has like this constant rhythm to it that's really memorable and catchy, which really works wonders with the backdrop of the song as well. The instrumental works hand in hand with this rhythmic approach that especially the vocal melody has, which is very effective. It's a hook that you will remember, and it's also very reliant on the specific rhythmic hits throughout the song, which I think kind of ties everything together, that it feels like a total package of everything working towards the same thing. It's something that's just well written and knew exactly what it wanted to do and never really deviated from its approach. in a good way, I'd say. They knew they had a great concept and they just went all in for it, and that's all they really needed to do. It's tons of fun to listen to. The energy is absolutely there. It gets me going, and I really enjoy it. So I'll put Norway in seventh. And I mean, Norway in like that could sound low, but it's just because this semifinal is so stacked. In sixth, I put Moldova because Moldova is so enjoyable. I mean, just for kind of context, Moldova is absolutely in my top 10 overall this year. So the fact that it's sixth here, I mean, that's kind of saying much about that semi one is well, at least in my opinion, a bit stronger, let's say. Moldova, massive instrumental. The hook of this song has probably the most insane sound design this year, I'd say. At least the mixing of it, it hits so hard, it's incredible. Plug in the headphones with good sound in it, and you just wait for that instrumental drop to hit, and it just overwhelms me every time. I always get surprised by how hard it hits, basically. The sound mixing is absolutely on point. I love the incorporation of the different instruments that maybe we're not used to in regular pop music from the western side of the world, I guess. Vocally, I think it's very strong. It has its own character to it, a very unique identity. Flows very nicely, catchy hook, very nice incorporation of different rhythms throughout the song. It's percussive wise, it's really strong, and sound mixing is out of this world. So it's just a lot of thumbs up about everything, really. And still, I can only place it sixth because all of the other stuff above it are also, equally impressive, I guess, or even more. But I really enjoy Moldova, and I hope they're in for a really, really good result this year. Portugal, no, sorry, not Portugal. Serbia is my fifth. I spoiled it. Sorry. Serbia. We're gonna talk about Serbia first. Serbia is my choice for fifth in the semifinal, which might sound low, but I'll stop mentioning it. It's semifinal one. Serbia, massive listening experience, just unique in its own identity. Sound design is great. Love the playfulness of the arrangement throughout. I think vocally it's very kind of haunting in a way. It absolutely fits the theme of the song very well, and it actually adds such a characteristic tone to it. I think it just stands out massively. I think it's also polished to the exact right degree that it should, and it's really memorable for that. Great instrumental, great how the vocals work kind of in a way to highlight the instrumental of the song, and actually the storytelling aspect of it as well. The final segment of the song really goes all in, and it's a very fulfilling listening experience, that final minute, I'd say. So yeah, just tons of great stuff about Serbia. Love the sound mix on this one as well. Like this one and Moldova are probably like the two standouts in terms of the production quality this year, I'd say. Not sure which one I'm most impressed by. But yeah, Serbia in fifth, and well, I spoiled it. Portugal will be in fourth then. Too enjoyable to just look away from. Unfortunately, it looks like this one's kind of gonna miss out a little bit, depending on what we're gonna see tomorrow. But I'll stay optimistic for now. One of the most enjoyable songs I've heard this year. Tons of energy, tons of just flavor to it. I think it's I shouldn't talk about the charisma, but you can kind of even hear the charisma in the vocal when you listen to the studio cut. It's a very characteristic vocal performance. It's quite massive in that sense, and it's also kind of the storytelling aspect. It's a theatrical kind of vibe that you get from it. The energy is there, but it's absolutely all about the shifts in tone and in register throughout the vocal delivery as well. It's a very living vocal performance, I'd say, that shifts and has a lot of different kind of approaches and flavors to it as the song progresses. Memorable hook, the energy is probably what keeps it all together, just massively, and love the whole instrumentation that it has going for it as well. It's incredibly unique in that regard, and there's never really a dull moment within this. It flows so naturally between segments, and love it to bits. 3 songs left, and I mean, as much as I would like to put Latvia at the top of this list, I can't really. I get too much enjoyment out of the other two. So I'll put Latvia in third. It is a song that I return to quite frequently, I just wouldn't say that I return to it as often as the other two that I have above it, which obviously you know by now which which those two are. But Latvia is one of the most fulfilling listening experiences this year, I'd say. The opening is something that takes you aback a little bit, both in terms of its odd time signature, but mainly I'd say probably due to its instrumentation. This drum machine is so industrial and kind of unexpected for a song that progresses the way this one does. The first time I heard it, I was very skeptical towards the entire kind of approach they took with it. It's stacked with a lot of kind of plastic sounds in a way, while also being quite metallic. And that's a little bit off-putting, but as you kind of get into the song and you just understand the groove of it, the vocals join in so effectively and leans in a very smooth way to incorporate the guitar and the bass as the song progresses in the first verse. And then it leads, of course, into this quite grand first chorus where the guitars are really highlighting the rhythms that you're supposed to attach yourself to as the time signature switches as well, which is a nice touch, of course. I mean, everyone's already been talking this to death, so I don't think we need to mention it too much. It's creative, but it's not groundbreaking, you know. But it's a nice touch, and I think it also adds something special to the song, and it also kind of emphasizes a rhythmic hit that maybe kind of adds a little bit of an extra impression on the listener, I'd say, from these guitar hits that really carry the chorus forward. Also, wonderful melody to the chorus. I think that's probably the main standout, along with how it's delivered vocally. I think there's a wonderful tone to it. There's warmth and comfort in the overall delivery of it. And I'm quite fond how that also works with this more industrial type of instrumental that it has backing it. Probably think the standout part of the song is actually like the instrumental segment after the second chorus it has to be, where everything just kind of gets all going and the instruments work in tandem completely, like allowing each other to shine. The soundstage is actually has a very wonderful sound at this point, quite blissful, while also having this bit of a sorrowful tone in it. So I particularly enjoy that segment, and it also leads into one of the most beautiful outros this year, I'd say, which is very intimate and quite comforting, but also not thought-provoking, but a bit in that regard, I guess. It's very heartfelt, and I think that definitely shines through when I listen to this one. Latvia, love it, but I'll put it third here, because I'll put Sweden in second. I think there's a lot of unnecessary complaints about Sweden this year, which I don't really understand. But whenever I listen to this song, I could absolutely sign under that, like to an extent. Like I can imagine, for me personally, like the song from Latvia might be more up my alley. But every time I listen to Tattoo, I just get these chills, you know. I think the chorus is so massive, the vocals carry so much effect to it, and the energy of it is quite unmatched, in all honesty. I think it just has such a dominant drive, especially percussively, but also how it works with the synths and how they're really boosting the entire drive of the song, especially in the choruses. I think it also has a wonderful opening, which really kind of takes you out of the loop a little bit rhythmically at the very first few seconds, and then it leads into a very intimate first verse that the vocal really carries you through, leading into quite a, like, of course, a very dramatic but also quite a hard-hitting first chorus. And then the second chorus is just, you know, the energy has been picked up, the drumming is intense here, and it just keeps going. And the final the final minute, I'd say, of this song is just some of the most, I guess, a little bit like chilling listening experiences that I think we have this year, if not the most chilling, I'd say. Just wonderful, full package for Tattoo, and Sweden's my second, just behind Finland, which I would absolutely consider to be my favorite song this year, because it's just the creativity of it. It stands out in that massive regard. Love the playfulness of it, and especially the way that everything is tied together at the end. That's the main, just wonderful part of this for me. If it was 3 minutes of the first section of the song, it wouldn't be my favorite. If it was 3 minutes of the second section of the song, it wouldn't be my favorite. It's the way that this is combined towards the end. and the fact that it actually works, which blows my mind not anymore because now I'm so used to it, but like it took me maybe like my first 20 listens. I got so impressed every time I listened to it by how they actually managed to put it all together. And it's just a mood booster, I'd say. It's an energy booster, and it's so much fun, and really has its own unique touch to it as well. It's something that you will never forget that you've heard. And yeah, I have too much fun with it. It has to be my favorite song this year. It's not like I would be upset if it didn't win, um, because there are other songs that I love this year. Maybe if it didn't win and Croatia ended up winning instead, maybe that's when I would be a little bit sad. But I'm just happy we got the chance to have this song in Eurovision, and it's been going warm on my playlist, and I've had a lot of fun listening to it. So Finland's gonna top this list, and hopefully you can see the list here on this side of the screen right now. Let me know what your list looks like. Remember to kind of keep it based on studio cuts, because that's what I've been doing. So, I mean, if you're doing something else, then you're doing something else. But I think it's a little bit unfair to judge songs based on having seen rehearsals, and especially snippets of rehearsals, and then make up your mind just because of that. So, studio cuts here. That's my list, and let me know what yours looks like in the comments, and I'll hope you have a good one until tomorrow night, and I hope you will enjoy the show. So have a good one, and bye for now.